5G, are we there yet? Will we ever get there? Part 2. Before we look at what the challenges are for the implementation of 5G technology, and why they are not implemented everywhere, we need to look why China has dominated the 5G industry. In the early 2000s, China realized that it may not be able to sustain as a manufacturing hub of the world, since they were expected to have a decreasing number of productive workers in less than 3 decades. So, the Chinese government chose 2 promising technologies, namely telecom and renewable energy, and started pouring enormous amount of money into them, by giving a boatload of incentives. Among the telecom companies, Huawei and ZTE were chosen to be incentivized, and the entire government machinery, including their intelligence agency, was used to help the rise of Huawei and ZTE, especially Huawei, a company owned by a former Chinese military veteran, Ren Zhengfei. For China, the success of Huawei became a national pride, and folk songs were created praising Huawei, and how it intertwined with China's identity. In fact, the name Huawei is a combination to 2 Chinese words, namely, Hua and Wei. Hua means China, and Wei means achievement. So, Huawei literally means Chinese achievement. Given this amount of fervor, Huawei and 5G just can't fail, no matter how much the government needs to pour in money to make them a success. China 5G fake subscribers scandal. Blind jingoism always leads to poor judgment, and China's case with their obsession in leading the world in 5G technology without proper analysis proved that point. There are 3 major mobile operators in China, namely China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. The ruling Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has been persuading all the operators, including the top 3, to upgrade their customers to 5G, regardless of their needs, or the type of telephones they use, so that the Chinese government can boast to the world that China has the largest and the most advanced 5G telecom system. The combined 5G subscribers for these 3 operators reached approximately 500 million, but the total 5G phones sold in China is far less, according to government data, around 300 million units. As you can expect, the customers who don't have 5G phones will not be able to get the benefits of 5G speed, or lower latency, but they still count as 5G customers, purely for the bragging rights. Challenges of 5G. 1. Cost of setting up 5G infrastructure. It's estimated to cost between $53,000 to $60,000 per base station, and the price has varied, due to market conditions recently, but let's say the average cost of a 5G base station is roughly $55,000. The number of base stations to be built for 5G is roughly between 2.5 to 4 times as many as 4G, to achieve the same coverage of 4G. This will require hundreds of billions of dollars to be spent in setting up infrastructure for 5G. The larger the country, and spread out it is, like China or USA, the higher the cost. In US, to get about 2/3 of the country to get high-band 5G coverage, of 28 GHz or 39 GHz, the cost is estimated to be above $500 billion. Given the fact 5G may only last for about 10 to 15 years, the telecom operators may not recover their cost before they need to install the next infrastructure, say 6G. The telecom operators installed 4G infrastructure which costs a fraction of the estimated 5G costs, and in many countries, the cost of 4G installation has not yet been recovered. 2. Shorter transmission distance. The 5G spectrum, especially on the high band, operates on a much higher frequency than the sub-6 spectrum that 4G and the lower bands of 5G use. The higher frequency waves don't travel that far. This results in a lot more installations of 5G base stations than 4G to get the same coverage. The approximate distance between 2 5G base stations need to be no more than 100 meters for the best 5G coverage. 3. Lack of penetration. 5G waves operate at a frequency closer to your microwave oven. You know, the microwave will not burn something through the wall. In fact, you don't want that to happen, and so the lack of penetration is a good thing. But, when those waves are used for building a communication network, it can be a very big limitation. Because 5G frequency signals are easily blocked by obstacles, even within the same building, or with rain, it becomes a serious challenge to maintain the same data speed. 4. High consumption of electric power. The consumption of electricity of 5G base station is a big challenge, as it incurs huge running costs. The average consumption of electricity is between 4 kilowatts and 10 kilowatts per base station. Unless this, and other costs are passed on to the customer, the telecom operators will incur a loss for every base station they have installed. In simple terms, unless the cost of the electricity is resolved, 5G is not sustainable at all. Since China has installed the maximum 5G base stations, and has had a problem of their cities unable to meet the existing electricity demand, there is an additional issue of the 5G base stations being either deliberately or forcefully shut down. In fact, the top 3 Chinese telecom operators did just that, by shutting down their base stations, between 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. the following day in many locations, to conserve electricity, during late 2021 into early 2022. 5. Lack of demand for 5G speed. Most of the customer requirements is currently met by 4G, and the apps requiring higher speed is not available yet. So, if a customer is required to pay significantly higher for 5G, he or she will not switch at all. Without high amount of 5G customers who experience high-speed coverage, the apps which work better only on 5G, will not be created. So, the need for 5G, especially the high band, may be a mirage, in the near future. There is a reason, why this range of frequency has never been chosen for usage, until now. It's definitely not a frequency for easier transmission and reception. When will 5G become ubiquitous? When material scientists figure out how to reduce the signal loss, due to rain or other obstacles, then the 5G signal becomes more reliable, and this can also lead to increased coverage, and reduced number of base stations required. Right now, you need to be in direct line of sight with the base station for getting the 5G coverage. Currently, a lot of work is going on in US and China, and US has accused China of stealing technology from their labs. Cost of base stations should become lower. The current cost of $55,000 is just not viable, anywhere in the world, for the operators to turn a profit without passing on significant cost increases to the customers. India has the cheapest cell phone plans in the world, and so, India has been working hard to produce much cheaper base stations. And interoperable technologies, like O-RAN, and NSA Core, with Reliance Industries leading the way. There is plenty of hope for India to succeed, and many investors from US, and around the world, have poured money into Indian research, trying to make this happen. US, China, Sweden and other European countries are also working very hard, to reduce the price of the base station. Electricity consumption per base station has to become lower. Let's say the initial cost of 5G installations are highly incentivized by the respective governments, as in China, but the running cost of electricity alone, will make the 5G implementation unattainable. As we have seen, each base station may consume 4 to 10 kilowatts currently, and this needs to come down drastically, for the operating cost of the telecom providers to reduce significantly. Interference with aviation sector. In US, the interference of 5G signals to the airplane's altimeter has been an issue, and a standoff between mobile operators like AT&T, Verizon, and the airline industry collectively, caused news in January 2022. The airline industry strongly objected to the presence of any C-band 5G networks, that operate at 3.7 to 3.98 GHz, within 2 miles or about 4 kilometers from an airport, so that the airplane's altimeter sensor which operates at 4.2 to 4.4 GHz, doesn't interfere with the 5G signals emitted from the transmitters. What about 5G becoming unreal, and never implemented? Yes, that cannot be ruled out either. Let's say, it takes a decade for 5G to become cheaper, and profitable. By then, 6G specifications move into implementation phase, then many nations may just skip the full implementation of 5G, and move to 6G instead. It's possible China, which went ahead with their 5G implementation in full force, may end up with a huge loss, though it is not very clear at this time. In late 2020, the Alliance for Telecommunications Industry Solutions, ATIS, in US, formed an alliance to decide on 6G specifications. Notable inclusions of this alliance are Apple, and Google, and the Chinese giants Huawei and ZTE, were banned for their unethical and illegal practices when they developed the 5G. Unless the major challenges facing 5G are resolved, 5G is only a loss-making option for the mobile operators. If the major challenges are overcome, with radical improvements in building the base stations, and reducing their electricity consumption, then, all the previously installed base stations need to be replaced, with the improved 5G base stations, or at least made interoperable, with either hardware or software. In the event such a drastic step of technological shift, China will certainly look not so smart, for having rolled 5G before the technology became mature, and feasible. Thanks for watching.